This segment of DelmarvaLife is sponsored by For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center.
It is a statistic that should make you stop, think, and especially talk. You know, suicide is one of the leading causes of death, most notably for young people in the United States. So this September, For All Seasons is launching a new campaign to raise awareness and encourage life-saving conversations. Its name might sound familiar if you've ever known someone dealing with suicide ideation. It's called I'm Fine, Isn't the Whole Story. Beth Ann Dorman, CEO of For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center, joins us today with more. Beth Ann, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So why focus on the phrase I'm fine?
Well, we know that it's used a lot, and we know, like our campaign says, the story isn't ending at I'm fine. And a lot of times when someone is not able to share, or maybe there's a barrier to sharing, they say I'm fine. And how often do we hear those conversations and that's where it ends? Mm-hmm. And we're so busy going to the next meeting, picking up the next call, running from place to place, that we don't always stop and really think about, okay, but what's behind I'm fine?
Mm-hmm. Is there a risk that talking about suicide could make things worse?
There is a myth that if you say to someone, are you suicidal, that's going to plant the idea in their mind, and that is absolutely false. And so talking creates conversation, creates connection. We are hardwired as human beings for connection, and when we can have conversations and be able to talk through what's happening, it might not be an easy conversation, and that's the piece that's important. This is not a magic prescription of, you've said I'm fine, but I think there's something more going on, tell me what's happening, and then they're going to open up. Yeah. It might take some time, but simply being able to stay and really listen and continue to ask the question is really important in this mix.
What are some signs that someone may be struggling?
If you're seeing somebody's affect different, if you're seeing someone who's pulling away, if you're seeing someone who is behaving in a different way than they have before, sometimes we see people give things away or talk about, I'm going to take care of this so you don't have to. And it might even be simply someone is showing up as more depressed, or there might be more anxiety or a different response to things that are happening. All of those symptoms are things to pay attention to. It doesn't mean that if one person is showing up with one of them, you automatically have to jump to, are you suicidal? Mm-hmm. But part of what we sometimes miss in the mental health conversation is the signs and really the preventative conversation that can happen. So the more that we create the path and the more that we create the safe space for the conversation, the more likely someone is going to be to come and talk with us.
Okay, so we've taken those steps and we might think this person may be suicidal. Mm-hmm. What do we do next?
So one of the things that we always say is stay with the person. If they've disclosed that with you, make sure that we are connecting to resources. For All Seasons has walk-in appointments and telehealth appointments 5 days a week, making sure that we're connecting to mental health resources, making sure that if you have stayed with that person and they say to you, I am okay, but I just need some help tomorrow, make sure you're getting that help that next day. The follow-up is so important. And I always say, make sure you're following up a week later, a month later, 6 months later, staying with that person and making sure that we as the people who are getting this information are also taking care of ourselves. Because it might be something where you're then holding a lot of information and you don't know what to do. And remembering that mental health professionals are there for the individual who's struggling, the family members, and the friends.
Absolutely. Okay, so have you ever seen someone who's been in that place where they were suicidal, they came through the other side, and then they took it a step further to help others?
Absolutely, and that's the part. Like, we all have a story to share, and we all have the ability to either move through things, and it's not a right or a wrong. Some people are going to say, here's my story to share, and I want to help others. Some people will say, it's my story to share only with who I want to share it with. I think what becomes most important is don't force people into sharing their story if they're not ready, and remember, it's their story. It's not your story to share, and so helping to make sure that when we do have people who are saying, I'm ready to share. I have a dear friend who has given me permission to share on the air with everyone that her child died by suicide. It's taken her 5 years, but she's starting to share her story. It's really important in that process that I do not leap and say, here's all the details. It is simply just there's someone who's sharing their story. If there's another family that's out there struggling, a mom is willing to talk.
Beth Ann Dorman, you always have such great insight. Thank you so much for coming in today and talking about what can be a difficult subject.
Absolutely.
Thank you.